No one can truly help you if you refuse the help, and no help in the world will matter if you are unwilling to help yourself. This is a truth many try to escape. They search for advice that soothes rather than challenges. They want comfort instead of correction. But Stoicism does not trade in illusions. It offers reality, steady, unglamorous, transformative work. To walk this path is to reject excuses. It is to rise each morning and quietly decide, I will not waste this day. I will not be ruled by passing emotions. I will not let ego guide my choices. I will choose to be better. Not tomorrow, not when I'm ready, but now. There is always more to refine, more within you to discipline, to strengthen, to clarify. Good enough is the phrase of the undisciplined, a surrender disguised as acceptance. The Stoic does not settle there. They aim for their best, not as a performance for others, but as an honest duty to themselves. They rise in the morning, carry through the day, and rise again the next, no matter the fatigue, the soreness, the weight of yesterday. Why? Because this day could be the last. And if it were, how would you meet it? With resentment or with virtue? In ease or in courage? This is not about theory. It is about choices, small, repeated choices, and the character those choices create. It is not about appearing better or feeling better in fleeting moments. It is about becoming better, with humility, with urgency, with discipline. Let us begin. Number 1, the daily decision. Every day begins with a question. Will I rise or will I fall? Not in the eyes of others, not in comfort or reputation, but in character, in intention, in discipline. We like to imagine that life is shaped by a handful of great decisions. But in truth, it is molded by the quiet, consistent repetition of small ones. The choice to be better is not made once. It is made again and again, morning after morning, moment after moment. It's made when the alarm sounds and rest calls you back to sleep, when an insult tempts you to retaliate, when feelings demand one thing, but reason suggests another. It's made in the supermarket line, when you choose patience over irritation. In your home, when you choose to listen instead of shouting. When you keep going, especially when no one will notice. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, still had to remind himself each dawn, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Even the most powerful man of his time knew that discipline is not about what you feel like doing. It's about doing what is right. The body seeks ease, the ego seeks praise, but the soul seeks growth, and growth does not come from comfort or stillness. It comes through resistance, through choice, through the quiet, steady work of self-overcoming. These small moments decide much. They shape your character, your legacy, your self-respect. Each time you rise above impulse, you reinforce the person you are becoming. Each time you choose comfort instead, you step backward. Your destiny is not written all at once. It is etched, choice by choice, into the days you live. They are the bricks in the wall of your integrity. Your future self is not built from the dreams you entertain, but from the things you choose to do, over and over again. In this repetition lies both risk and promise. Because what you repeat, you become. Every moment is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. When you show up on the days it's hardest, you cast a vote for discipline. When you choose courage, even as fear presses close, you cast a vote for strength. When you allow comfort to steer your choices, you cast a vote for weakness. Perfection is not what matters. Direction is. You will fall short at times, but do not fall asleep. Each small act of willpower is a quiet turning of the wheel in your favor. This is the real battle. Few will ever see it. It is fought in silence, in restraint, in the persistence to keep going. Greatness is not loud. It doesn't demand the spotlight. It endures. It takes the harder path, not to be praised, but to stay true to principle. It chooses what is right over what is easy, what lasts over what is quick. It says no to the noise of the world to honor the voice of conscience. This is the essence of the Stoic path, the heroism of habit, the nobility of effort, the willingness to repeat small, steady acts of virtue until they are no longer acts, but part of who you are. It is in these unremarkable choices, rising early, holding your tongue, doing the work, that a remarkable life takes form. You may never be applauded for them, but they are the foundation of all that matters. When others sleep, you rise. When others lash out, you hold back. When others quit, you endure. Over time, these small actions quietly separate the ordinary from the exceptional. They are proof of your inner strength, your willingness to do what is difficult simply because it is right. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You don't need to burn your life down to begin again. What you need is to stack small victories one upon another, like bricks forming the wall of a fortress. Each act of integrity is a brick. Each decision to take the harder path is the mortar that binds them. And that fortress, slowly, patiently, becomes your character. When the storm comes, it will hold. The one who controls their temper today is stronger than the one who conquers a city. The one who honors commitments even when no one is watching is already rare. These are not accidents of personality. They are forged in choice, repeated choice, painful choice, necessary choice. It's not glamorous, but it is transformative, and those choices are made now, not someday, not when it's easier, not when the world is paying attention. Now in the quiet corners of your life where no one sees but you. Begin tomorrow with intention. Before your feet touch the floor, ask yourself, what kind of person will I be today? Not what tasks will I complete or what will I achieve, but who will I be in the face of challenge, uncertainty, and temptation? Will I choose the higher path or the easier one? Will I answer with wisdom or react with ego? Choose 3 virtues to carry with you. Courage, when fear tempts you to shrink. Discipline, when distraction pulls you away. Patience, when frustration urges you to lash out. Say them aloud, write them down, picture yourself living them, in your words, your tone, your posture, even your silences. Carry these virtues like invisible armor, seen only in your actions. When someone cuts you off in traffic, let patience answer first. When doubt creeps in before a hard task, let courage take the lead. When no one is watching, let discipline speak the loudest. These are the moments that shape more than your day. They shape your destiny. The goal is not to perform goodness, but to become good. Repeat these virtues to yourself throughout the day like a quiet mantra. When irritation rises, remember them. When fatigue presses in, return to them. Let them guide each decision, each response. And when the day is done, reflect. Did I live as the person I intended to be? If not, begin again. That is the Stoic way. Always beginning, always choosing better. Number 2, ego and humility. Ego is the enemy of growth. Humility is the soil where growth can take root. Without humility, nothing lasting develops. Wisdom does not deepen, discipline does not strengthen, and insight cannot break through. Ego works like a slow poison, killing progress before it has the chance to begin. It convinces you that you have already arrived, that you know enough, that you are beyond correction. It whispers, you've already climbed the mountain. You are above reproach. Others should listen while you speak. A Stoic knows this is fatal. Epictetus warned, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Pride blinds the eyes and dulls the ears. It makes you chase validation instead of truth. It trades curiosity for certainty, replacing open-mindedness with arrogance. But humility Humility is the light that reveals our flaws, not as insults, but as invitations to improve. It turns critique into fuel. It turns failure into foundation. Humility clears a path through the thorns of ego and opens the way toward self-mastery. The humble person does not shatter under feedback. They grow stronger with each honest word. They do not pretend to know. They ask, they listen, they refine. Humility is not weakness. It is the discipline of truth. It is the quiet courage to say to life, I am open, I am willing, I am capable of more. Growth begins when we admit we are unfinished, still becoming, still flawed, still in need of refinement. This is not defeat. It is strength. It takes courage to say, I am not there yet. It takes maturity to see that every achievement is a stepping stone, not a pedestal. The proud do not learn. They perform. They rehearse instead of revise. They seek applause instead of instruction. But applause has never forged a better person. It has only comforted a stagnant one. The approval of others can be loud, but it often drowns out the softer, more necessary voice of inner accountability. The Stoic does not live for applause. They live for progress. Wisdom is not born from being admired. It comes from being honest, from sitting at the feet of difficulty instead of running from it, from allowing discomfort to be the chisel that shapes character, from saying, this hurts, but it is teaching me. The Stoic welcomes the fire, not for the pain, but for the purification. True change does not begin in the mirror of praise. It begins in the furnace of honest reflection, where illusions are burned away and clarity remains. Every false belief that falls away makes space for truth. Every truth accepted becomes part of a stronger foundation. To choose to be better, you must first admit you are not yet as good as you could be. This is not self-loathing. It is self-honesty. It is the willingness to put truth before pride. To ask in quiet moments, what am I holding on to that is holding me back? It is the humility to say, I don't know. I was wrong. I can do better. And it is the discipline to follow those words with action, not once, but continually. Because growth is a way of living, not a single resolution. It is a commitment, not a convenience. The Stoic's path is never complete. The mountain never flattens. At times there is a plateau, a place to rest. But just beyond the next bend, a new challenge waits, demanding more from you than the last. Each step forward uncovers a new edge, not just in the terrain ahead, but in yourself. New doubts, new temptations, new layers of ego to strip away. Each horizon reveals another summit, always just out of reach, always urging you onward, not out of dissatisfaction, but out of reverence for what you might yet become. Every virtue mastered points toward another that calls for greater discipline. Patience leads you toward humility. Humility uncovers the need for courage. Courage demands integrity. The deeper you go, the more you see there is to improve, not in shame, but in possibility. This is the paradox of self-mastery. The closer you draw to it, the more you realize it has no finish line. It is not a single race, but a lifelong journey of refinement. To climb higher, you must lay down the weight of ego, because pride will always slow the ascent. To grow, you must bow to the truth, not just in rare moments of crisis, but every day you wish to rise above who you were yesterday. Correction must become a compass, not a condemnation. Progress must matter more than praise. It is earned in the quiet decision to return to humility, to stay open, to seek refinement even when others see only perfection. Especially then, because external praise can be the most deceptive prison. True growth often goes unnoticed. It happens in the silence after a difficult choice, in the pause before a measured reply, in the quiet refusal to return to an old weakness. That is the Stoic way, unseen by many, mastered by few. It is not glamorous. It is not loud, but it is powerful. It forms people the world cannot shake. Those who remain steady in the face of flattery, unbroken by failure, and untouched by ego. Find one place where pride has made you resistant. Is it the feedback you dismiss too quickly? An apology you know is owed but have avoided giving? A weakness you've tried to hide, even from yourself? The first step is to name it. See clearly the crack in your armor, the wall pride has built that blocks your growth. Face it today, not later. Write it down. Reflect on how long you've avoided it, and how many times you've justified that avoidance. Acknowledge the cost, the trust lost, the wisdom missed, the strength left unrealized. Then, invite one person you trust to give you honest, pointed feedback, not comfort. Tell them you want the truth and listen without defense. Do not argue. Do not explain. Let their words settle like a bitter medicine that heals. Notice your first reaction: denial, offense, embarrassment. Then look deeper. What truth is your ego trying to protect you from? That is the lesson that matters most. Growth begins where pride ends. Let humility have the final word. Number 3, discipline over emotion. Emotions are not enemies, but they are not meant to lead. Anger, fear, jealousy. These cannot be the architects of your life. They are signals to be observed, not commands to be obeyed. Questions to be explored, not masters to be worshipped. The Stoics taught that virtue must guide emotion, not the other way around. For when emotion takes the reins, judgment stumbles behind it. And when judgment weakens, our ability to live wisely and justly weakens with it. Seneca called anger a kind of temporary madness. He warned, "No plague has cost the human race more, because people obeyed it, followed it, fed it." Anger is more than a raised voice or clenched fist. It is a fog that distorts the world, turning molehills into mountains and people into enemies. Fear, when unchecked, can shrink the boundaries of your life into a prison of imagined dangers. Jealousy corrodes quietly, distorting perception, poisoning relationships. Left ungoverned, these emotions do not serve us. They undermine us. But there is another way. We can pause. We can train ourselves to act, not react. We can catch the spark before it becomes a wildfire. We can create a small space between what we feel and what we do. A sacred pause where reason has room to speak. This is where discipline enters. Discipline is not repression. It is redirection. It says, "I acknowledge this feeling, but I will not serve it." Discipline is the mental strength to hold the wave until it passes. It does not deny anger, fear, or jealousy. It denies their rule over your choices. It is the guardian at the gate, the voice that says, "I will not be ruled by this," not by impulse, not by resentment, not by fear. Discipline doesn't erase emotion. It keeps it in its rightful place, like a wild horse harnessed to pull rather than left to trample. Number 4, emotion under discipline. When guided by discipline, emotion can serve a higher purpose. Anger can be shaped into courage. Fear can be refined into prudence. Sadness can deepen into compassion. But without discipline, they turn destructive. When you are wronged, you do not need to shout. You do not need to defend pride as if it were life itself. You do not need to strike back in pettiness or make grand, heated declarations. What you need is clarity. You need perspective. You need the steady voice within you to remain louder than the chaos around you. When fear rises, you do not need to run. You need to look closer, to ask where it comes from, whether it warns you of something real or deceives you with exaggeration. When exhaustion tempts you to give up, you do not need to surrender. You need to remember why you began, to return to your values, your vision, and your vow to become someone greater than comfort. The disciplined mind chooses well in every state, not only when life is calm, but especially when life is turbulent. It sees emotion and asks, does this move me toward virtue or away from it? It pauses, even under pressure, to consider what choice is most aligned with character. That pause is powerful. It separates those who are shaped by circumstances from those who shape themselves despite them. This is the mark of the trained Stoic, not to feel less, but to choose better, to be governed by principles, not passions, to measure each reaction not by the emotion of the moment, but by the standard of what you will respect tomorrow. The disciplined Stoic is not made of stone. They are made of steel, flexible, strong, and unbroken. They feel deeply, yet remain steady. They know pain, yet refuse bitterness. In every emotional storm, discipline is the anchor. It steadies your ship, keeps you from capsizing, and steers you toward what is right. Practice it long enough, and you become immovable. Not because nothing affects you, but because nothing owns you. Not because you are cold, but because you are rooted. Not because you are numb, but because you are trained. You may be shaken, but never shattered. Tested, but never undone. That is the quiet strength of practiced discipline. It does not make you invincible, but it makes you unyielding in virtue. The next time a wave of emotion rises, anger, anxiety, frustration, do not rush to speak. Do not rush to act. Pause. Breathe. Deeply, deliberately. Let the weight of the moment settle in your chest. Remind yourself, this is a test, not a trap. Count slowly to 10, not as a distraction, but as an invitation to clarity. Let each count quiet the noise. Let each breath return you to presence. Ask yourself, what would the best version of me do right now? Not the most comfortable version, not the angriest version, the wisest version, the one who moves with courage, composure, and control. See that version of yourself clearly. Notice how they stand, how they breathe, how they speak, or choose not to speak. Then, be that. Step into it. If needed, take space. Step back from the situation. Go for a walk. Splash cold water on your face. Whatever helps you re-enter with strength instead of weakness. This is not avoidance. It is mastery. It is not retreat. It is regrouping. To pause is to prove you are not ruled by reflex. It is the quiet, decisive act that says, I am in command of myself. From that place of command, you can act with principle, not pressure. The mirror of virtue. To grow, you must measure yourself not against others, but against virtue. Not against their applause, their wealth, or their popularity, but against your own alignment with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. Ask yourself, am I more just than I was a year ago? More courageous? More disciplined in my desires? These are your true milestones, not because they dazzle, but because they define the direction of your soul. The world will tempt you with other measures: money, status, followers, and the fragile comfort of being liked by many. It will whisper that your worth depends on approval, on how your life appears from the outside. But the Stoic walks a different road. Their compass points inward. Their aim is not admiration, but virtue. To be good for the sake of good, not for the applause it earns. Because applause fades. Applause is temporary. But character is eternal. It is what remains when the crowd has gone and the room is silent. It is what steadies you when no one is watching. It is who you are when no one is watching that defines you. This is not easy, especially in a world where so many chase external approval, where society teaches you to measure worth by wealth, social proof, or influence, where fame is celebrated more than integrity, and visibility more than authenticity. Comparison is a trap. It feeds the ego and starves the soul. It tempts you to judge your value by someone else's path, a path never meant for you. You lose your footing trying to walk in shoes that were never yours. The only true measure is the one between who you are and who you could be, between what you have done and what you might have done had you acted with more courage, more discipline, more love. The Stoic holds this mirror daily, not to shame, but to remain awake, alert to the subtle seduction of ego. They do not seek to rise above others. They aim to rise above yesterday's self. They do not chase superiority, but sincerity. They are guided not by envy, but by principle. Each day offers the chance to move closer to your ideal, not perfectly, but earnestly. Not by waiting for a better moment, but by using the moment you have. Every day is a mirror. Every action reflects your inner state. The Stoic does not boast in virtue. They examine themselves. They reflect. They adjust. They recalibrate with honesty and humility. They do not ask, "Did I win?" They ask, "Did I live by my principles? Did I honor what I say I believe?" Because for them, self-respect matters more than reputation. Growth matters more than perception. The truth of who you are matters more than the image you project. Virtue is not decoration, it is foundation. It is not something you wear, it is something you become. The Stoic lives by this truth. If you would not admire your own actions in private, you should not display them in public. That is the mirror you hold up to yourself. Only those brave enough to look into it daily will grow into the person they were meant to be. At the end of the day, sit quietly for a few minutes. Reflect on your actions. Ask yourself, where did I act with virtue? Where did I fall short? Write down one way to improve tomorrow. Keep a virtue journal. Let it keep you honest. Number 5, time is running out. The urgency of Stoicism begins with one undeniable truth. You are going to die. Perhaps not today, perhaps not this year, but the clock is always ticking, and you cannot know when it will stop. Death does not send warnings. It does not consider your plans, your ambitions, or your calendar. It arrives on its own schedule. The Stoic does not wait to live. They do not assume they have more. They live now, with purpose, with urgency, with virtue. Life's value lies not in its length, but in how it is used. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." He did not write this as a gloomy statement. He wrote it as a wake-up call. Let that awareness press gently against your mind each morning. Let it shape your priorities. Let it strip away the trivial. When you remember that life is finite, you stop wasting time on what does not matter. You stop delaying hard but necessary conversations. You stop scrolling, posturing, pretending. You begin to live fully and honestly, as if each breath is borrowed. People often waste time believing they have more. They delay growth. They put off becoming who they are meant to be, thinking tomorrow will catch what today drops. They act as if life is a warehouse of endless tomorrows, shelves stacked with opportunities to pick up later. But that is an illusion, a dangerous one. Someday does not exist. It is a ghost we use to escape the discomfort of action. The Stoic does not fall into this trap. They act in the moment. They live as fully as they can, as wisely as they can, with each breath they are given. The Stoic understands that life is a loan, not a guarantee, and every loan comes due. The terms are not negotiable, and repayment is inevitable. Each sunrise is a gift, no more promised than the one before it. You do not earn tomorrow simply because you survived today. It is not granted based on your plans, your potential, or your wishes. It is granted, or not, by fate. To squander it is not only unwise, it is a subtle disrespect to the miracle of existence itself. Time is not something we own. It is something we are entrusted with. To misuse it is not merely wasteful, it is a betrayal of what has been given. Each day is a page in a book you cannot rewrite. Every conversation, every decision, every moment you fail to act becomes ink on that page. Once written, it cannot be erased. So why fill it with apathy, regret, or delay? Why write chapters of excuses, hesitation, or maybe tomorrow? Why tell your story in the language of procrastination? Choose to act now. Not when it is easy, not when it is convenient, but now. Because now is the only time you truly own. Tomorrow is hope, not fact. The Stoic knows this. They move today as if it matters, because it does. They live each moment not with panic, but with presence. Not with fear, but with clarity. Clarity comes when you stop waiting and start acting. Life does not ask if you are ready. It does not pause for your confidence, your courage, or your calendar. It moves forward whether you feel prepared or not. And so, the Stoic walks with urgency. Not panic, not stress, but focus. A sharp, clear focus that sees through distractions, cuts through noise, and moves forward with resolve. They do not wait for motivation. They act because virtue compels them. They understand that each wasted day is not just a missed opportunity. It is a moment of life surrendered. It is a piece of your soul left unused, untested, unlived. The cost of delay is not just lost time. It is lost transformation, lost strength, lost virtue. It is a quiet erosion of your highest potential. Let this truth not burden you, but sharpen you. Let it ignite urgency without fear. Let it remind you that the life you seek must be lived today. Not imagined, not postponed, but practiced in action, in virtue, in presence. This is the Stoic's response to death. Not dread, but discipline. Not anxiety, but urgency. Not apathy, but deliberate action. Death does not frighten the Stoic, because they have lived. Not merely survived, but lived fully, deliberately, consciously. Set aside 10 minutes. Write down everything you would do differently if this were your last year alive. What kind of person would you choose to be? What habits would you shed? What relationships would you mend? What fears would you release? What truths would you finally face? Then circle just one of those actions, the most urgent, the most necessary. Begin it today. Not thinking, not planning, doing. Because if today is all you have, let it be lived with full presence and power. Number 6, the weight of responsibility. To be Stoic is to accept that your life is your own, not your circumstances, not your upbringing, not your environment, yours. This does not mean that everything that happens is your fault. Life is full of randomness, full of pain you did not choose, full of setbacks that arrive without warning. But Stoicism does not dwell on blame. It concerns itself with power. And responsibility is power. It means that everything that follows from this moment, your thoughts, your reactions, your interpretations, your decisions, your growth, is yours to shape. You cannot control the world, but you can control your response to it. And in that control lies freedom, discipline, and virtue. You do not choose the weather, but you choose your attitude. You do not decide the obstacles, but you decide your effort. The Stoic does not point outward. They point inward. They do not ask, "Why me?" They ask, "What can I do now?" Not because they seek suffering, but because they understand the futility of blame. Outsourcing responsibility is outsourcing potential. This is not passive acceptance. It is ownership. It is strength cloaked in humility. It is the refusal to surrender your character to the chaos around you. Epictetus said it best. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That reaction is your kingdom. It is the place where your legacy is quietly forged. Blame is easy. Growth is hard. Blame feels soothing in the moment. It calms the ego, gives you a villain, buys you time, but it steals your power. Every time you blame, you give away the very thing you need to grow: control over yourself. You become a spectator in your own life, a critic rather than a craftsman, passive instead of active. But when you take responsibility, you reclaim that power. You stop waiting for someone else to save you. You stop waiting for circumstances to change before you act. You become the hero of your own life, not through grand gestures, but in the quiet, steady practice of choosing responsibility over excuse. This weight is not a burden, it is a gift. It means your life is shaped by your choices, not your excuses. It gives you freedom. It gives you leverage. It gives you momentum. When you take ownership, the world no longer happens to you. It begins to happen through you. You are no longer a passenger, tossed by every twist in the road. You are the captain. You set the direction. You determine the pace. You choose the meaning of your moments. And in doing so, you shape your soul. Responsibility is not merely something you carry. It is the instrument through which you craft your life. It is something that carries you. It becomes the frame that holds your actions accountable. It becomes the foundation on which your values take shape. It gives you structure, a way to navigate the chaos of life with direction. It gives you standards, a quiet code of conduct that endures even when everything else falls apart. It reminds you who you are when the world around you is uncertain. It becomes the gentle voice urging you to rise when it would be easier to fall, to speak when silence tempts you, to act when comfort says wait. It is the compass that keeps your journey aligned when hardship blurs your vision. Responsibility builds integrity through repetition. Each time you do what you said you would do, even when it is difficult, you reinforce the core of your character. Each time you take ownership when things go wrong, rather than shifting blame, you strengthen the spine of your morality. It is not a glamorous path, but it is a path of meaning. And through it, your life takes on a quiet dignity no applause could match. It asks you to show up, not perfectly, but honestly. Not with every answer, but with the willingness to seek. Not without fear, but with the resolve to move forward anyway. Responsibility calls you to meet life as it is, not as you wish it would be. To respond not with complaint, but with character. It asks you to stop waiting for ideal conditions and begin doing what you can, with what you have, from where you are. It teaches that effort matters even when results are slow, that presence matters even when progress feels small, that showing up consistently and deliberately is often the most courageous act of all. To be stoic is to look at the mess, the pain, the challenge, and say, "This is mine to answer," not because you caused it, but because you are the one standing before it. This is not weakness. It is not resignation. It is the beginning of real strength. The kind of strength that does not shout, but builds. The kind of strength that does not collapse under pressure, but becomes steadier, more deliberate, more focused, more disciplined. The kind of strength that keeps showing up when others stop. That strength is not born in ease. It is born in responsibility. It is a strength that can never be taken from you, because it is chosen by you, because it is reinforced in every hard choice you refuse to run from, because it lives in every moment you decide to respond with virtue instead of excuse. That kind of strength becomes who you are, not occasionally, but consistently, quietly, always. Take a moment. Write down one area of your life where you've been blaming someone or something. Now reframe it. Ask yourself, what is within my control here? What can I do differently starting today? Circle one action and take it within the next hour. Reclaim your role. Reclaim your responsibility. Number 7, the virtue of endurance. Endurance is not merely surviving difficulty. It is the decision to face difficulty with dignity. It is not passive, and it is not accidental. It is a conscious choice, a quiet defiance against despair. It is the deliberate act of standing when every reason suggests you should fall. The Stoics understood that life would not always be kind, but it could always be met with strength. They did not wait for comfort. They trained for adversity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." This is not a dismissal of pain. It is a declaration of strength. Pain is not the enemy. Discomfort is not injustice. Hardship is not an excuse. These are the tools that shape the soul, the fire that forges the will, the whetstone that sharpens the blade of your resolve. They are invitations to step deeper into who you truly are. To run from them is to remain soft, undeveloped, fragile. To embrace them, cold, heavy, relentless as they may be, is to build the inner calluses needed to carry real purpose. To endure is to declare, through your actions, that your values are not conditional. You endure because you have chosen to, not because it is easy, not because it is glamorous, but because it is right. To give up is to fall short of your potential. The Stoic does not tolerate that. The Stoic knows that purpose outweighs pain and that it is sacred. They may feel, they may struggle, but they do not quit. They may bend, but they do not break. They may slow, but they do not stop. They press on, not from stubbornness, but from principle, because suffering is temporary, and the honor of staying true lasts forever. True endurance is silent. It does not complain. It does not seek pity. It does not advertise its struggle. Its strength is revealed in persistence, not performance. It does not scream for attention or demand applause. It exists quietly, consistently, with a force recognized only by those who witness it through their own experience. It simply continues. It simply refuses to stop, again and again, despite frustration, fatigue, or the absence of reward. That refusal becomes strength. That act of returning, of pressing on, becomes its own kind of power. Every time you rise when no one notices, when no one thanks you, when no one even knows how hard it was, this is where endurance lives. That strength becomes example. It becomes a quiet beacon for those who suffer silently, who struggle without recognition. It teaches not through words, but through presence. It reminds the world that perseverance exists even without praise. That example becomes legacy. It outlasts moments, outlives recognition, and inspires without expecting anything in return. The Stoic story is not about avoiding hardship, but about moving through it without losing the core of who they are. Endurance does not always roar. Often it whispers, "I will not yield." Over time, that whisper becomes unshakable power, a philosophy lived so deeply that it no longer requires explanation. It becomes who you are. Epictetus was born into slavery. As a young man, he endured the daily indignities of being treated as property rather than a person. One account tells of a moment when his master twisted his leg until it broke. Epictetus calmly warned him, "If you keep twisting, it will break." When it did, he simply said, "I told you so," without complaint. That moment, like so many in his life, reflected not only physical endurance, but philosophical clarity. His mind had already been trained to distinguish what was within his control and what was not. Later, after gaining his freedom, he lived modestly. He walked with a limp, had little material comfort, yet he taught tirelessly, enduring hardship with grace, humor, and unwavering focus. His entire philosophy was forged in adversity. Epictetus didn't endure because he had no choice. He endured because he chose to meet suffering with virtue, not bitterness. His life became the living embodiment of his teachings. True power comes not from circumstances, but from the choices you make within them. After gaining freedom, he sought wisdom over wealth. He became a devoted student of philosophy under Musonius Rufus, one of Rome's most respected Stoic teachers. With determination and discipline, Epictetus absorbed Stoicism not as abstract ideas to admire, but as a way of life to live. Despite poverty and physical disability, he became known not for what he lacked, but for the strength of his mind and the clarity of his teachings. Eventually, he established his own school in Nicopolis, attracting students from across the Roman world. His teachings would later profoundly influence Marcus Aurelius, shaping one of history's most revered Stoic minds. His lectures were direct, practical, and uncompromising. He urged his students not merely to admire philosophy, but to live it. He did not dwell on theory or abstraction. He taught how to endure hardship, how to remain free in spirit, and how to uphold virtue, no matter the chains on the body or the chaos of the world. In time, Epictetus' influence spread far beyond the walls of his school. His student Arrian recorded his teachings, preserving his wisdom for generations. Epictetus did not rise because of circumstance. He rose by choice. He showed that greatness is not measured by title or wealth, but by the relentless pursuit of virtue. A man born in chains could become a philosopher who would inspire emperors. Endurance, when paired with integrity, becomes the foundation of wisdom. Consider one difficulty you are facing now. Instead of asking how long it will last, ask how strong it can make you. How can it deepen your character, sharpen your clarity, and forge your will? See it not as an obstacle, but as an invitation to rise. Commit to showing up each day, even if only by an inch. Even if all you can manage is a breath, a choice, a word, let it be a choice toward strength. Stack those small victories. Let each effort, however small, compound into quiet resilience. Remember, endurance is not about speed. It is about direction. It is about refusing to let the challenge have the final word. Keep a record. Journal what you did each day to stay the course. Capture not only your progress, but also your effort. Reflect not just on results, but on your resolve. Treat endurance as a sacred practice, a demonstration of the strength that comes from choosing to continue. Let consistency become your courage. Let repetition become your resolve. Over time, what once felt unbearable becomes familiar, and what once threatened to break you now builds you. This is the path of the Stoic, not to avoid difficulty, but to rise through it with virtue again and again until it becomes who you are. Number 8, choosing the higher standard. The Stoic does not settle. They do not say, "That is good enough." They ask, "What is the best I can do here?" Not for perfection, but for excellence. Not for applause, but for alignment with virtue. The Stoic holds themselves to a higher standard, not one imposed by others, but one chosen from within. In a world that says, "Do what you feel," the Stoic says, "Do what is right." In a culture that lowers the bar, the Stoic raises it. They do not drift with the current. They stand like a pillar within it, knowing that how you do anything is how you do everything. Each action is a quiet declaration of who you are. Even the smallest choice reflects your values. Every decision, no matter how ordinary, is an opportunity to practice virtue. No task is too small to be done with care, because care itself is a virtue. Excellence is not born from grand gestures. It grows from repeated, deliberate commitments. It is the quiet polishing of discipline in unseen places. It is found in your posture, your tone, your presence, your follow-through, in how you make your bed, write an email, shake a hand, or complete the tasks others overlook. These moments become the training ground for a mind that does not compromise. The Stoic chooses the higher standard, not because it is easy, but because it is honorable, because the higher standard summons the higher self. The repeated commitment to excellence invites transformation. It separates the merely good from the truly great. The Stoic refuses to be average, not out of pride, but out of purpose. Average cannot carry the weight of virtue. Average cannot endure chaos. Average collapses when the world tests it, because it was built for appearances, not principle. Solid on the surface, hollow beneath. Greatness is not forged in comfort. It is forged in the crucible of repeated integrity. Only those who train in the quiet, daily discipline of excellence can withstand the storms when it matters most. They develop grit by choosing the harder path, not once, but every day. They learn to value quality over convenience, truth over trend, and effort over ease. Each time they resist the temptation to cut corners, they strengthen the foundation of who they are becoming. That discipline becomes identity. That identity becomes unshakable. When the world seeks to diminish them, it meets a moral shield forged in quiet consistency and deliberate action. It shields you from the pull of mediocrity, the temptation of shortcuts, the illusion of ease. It reminds you that you were not born to blend in, but to rise by standing firm in what is right. The Stoic does not fear the high standard. They welcome it, for it is through this standard that they become someone the world cannot sway, and someone they themselves can respect. Identify one routine task you normally rush or overlook. Tomorrow, do it with full attention and care. Turn the mundane into a moment of mastery. Let that be your standard. Number 9, detachment from outcomes. The Stoic invests in effort, not outcome. They focus on what they can do, not what they can control. The result is not the reward. Virtue is. Success is welcomed, but not worshipped. Failure is accepted, but not feared. The Stoic plays their part with integrity, regardless of how the story unfolds. This detachment is not indifference. It is clarity. It is freedom. It is the wisdom of knowing that results are shaped by forces often beyond your reach. Fortune, timing, the choices of others. But your effort, your values, your discipline, these are always yours. These are what define you. Outcome obsession is a trap. It makes you frantic, reactive, and restless. It turns your focus toward validation instead of virtue. But when you release your grip on the outcome, you reclaim your power. You return to peace. You return to presence. Let go of needing everything to go your way. Let go of needing approval. Let go of needing recognition. Give your best, and let that be enough. The Stoic does not win by controlling the world. They win by controlling themselves. Identify one goal you have been fixated on. Today, shift your attention to the process. What action lies fully within your control? Focus on that. Act. Then let go of the rest. Trust the effort. Accept the outcome. Number 10. Becoming the example. In the end, the Stoic does not seek recognition. They do not aim to impress with words. They aim to inspire through action. They understand that the most powerful message is a life lived with virtue. A life that makes no announcement, yet commands attention. That example carries more weight than any argument, more influence than any persuasion. It changes others not through instruction, but through reflection. When people witness consistency in you, they see what is possible for themselves. Your discipline becomes permission. Your integrity becomes a quiet challenge. Your calm in the midst of chaos becomes an anchor for someone else. Your steadfastness in adversity becomes the reason another does not falter. Every choice, every word, every silence shapes the environment you leave behind. The question is, what kind of example will it be? The Stoic chooses to be better, not only for themselves, but for others. They know that every room they enter is a chance to raise the standard. Every interaction is an opportunity to infuse clarity, courage, and patience into the moment. Without speaking, they remind the world that strength, humility, and virtue are still possible. In a culture that glorifies noise and distraction, the Stoic becomes the quiet constant, a presence that steadies, uplifts, and demonstrates what is truly enduring. They do not compete with chaos. They endure it. They outlast it. Live a life that speaks quietly, even in silence, that teaches without preaching. Let your actions demonstrate what is possible when a human being commits to being more than their emotions, more than their circumstances, more than their excuses. Hold the standard without seeking credit. Walk away from pettiness without explanation. Stand firm when bending would be easier. Consider someone who watches you, someone who notices you even if you do not realize it, a sibling, a colleague, a stranger. Live today as the example they need. Be the quiet strength they have not yet found. Be the reason they see that choosing better is possible, not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Let your life carry the message. Let your presence reflect your principles. Let who you are quietly give others the courage to become who they were meant to be.